Good morning and welcome back to Granja Caimito in the Pedroches Valley of Andalusia, Spain. It is cloudy and we need the generator.
So there was a forecast for rain, but we did not receive a single drop. What we do have instead is a lot of the mustard flowers that are now showing up everywhere. And you can see them in here also. They do show up in all the places where the soil is poor. Like for example over here. And also right in front of me. So here you have a view from the top. And this is how they look like. And this whole area here is now becoming yellow, like there in the background. And instead of rain, what we have is this. There's the sun. And it is cloudy. But no rain has fallen so far. The forecast continues to mention rain, but we will see whether that actually will turn out to be true. But even without the rain, this area here, where not long ago, it might be a week or so, the horses have been, is again looking very good. So here you have a closer view. So we do have moisture stored in the soil. So that thing at least is working. But we need some replenishment. We brought the herd here this morning just for a few hours and then they were gone. The idea was to nibble a little bit on this grass and also on the yellow flowers and manure, so that this gets a little bit an injection of fertilizer in order to be absorbed when it rains. And like I said before, it was supposed to rain, but it did not yet. So maybe overnight it will happen. And if I pan down, you can see that there is the Bermuda grass. It is still dormant, which is why it is grey. But this is the area that used to be a green patch over summer. Especially the area here, right next to the pond. And I expect this to come alive once the temperatures are rising a little bit. And then what is grey will become dark green. In the big pond, some volunteer plants have showed up and they seem to be living in the water. That is very interesting. They are sitting right there in the water, and there is more of them all along this little shoreline here. They have picked this side, and some of them are also appearing there at the outflow and also along the other shoreline. So this is a very positive sign. Nobody has planted or seeded them. They have just shown up all by themselves. So if I zoom out, you can see how this looks like on that side. It's a very positive sign. What we now need to organize is the duckweed, so that we can cover the surface, and later of course we need the duckweed to make our fermented pig feed. Today it has rained quite a bit, but those downpours are not enough to make any effect here. This is just wet, but of course it's not filled. I am about to take advantage of the pause between the rain showers and walk a little bit around, and let's see how the swales in our zone C look like. Down here it is just wet. There's no significant accumulation of water. That only happens when a lot of water has accumulated and then fills up this seasonal creek. This is our Paddock A19. It has had more than 50 days of rest, and because of lack of rain and colder temperatures, the grasses have not really grown that well. Now that we are getting rain, we decided to let them graze it off, and then with the sunshine and the now existing moisture, this should come up quickly, so that we are getting back to the usual 35-40 days of rest time between grazing sessions. So this is just quick. They won't stay here for long, maybe an hour or so, and then they will be out. But what we are hoping for is that we are getting a little bit of manure added, and of course the trampling. They open with their hooves the soil and make little channels for water infiltration. So that's the animal impact. And then in a month or so, when they come back, I think by then we should have really good grass. And if you look at this from the top, you can see the ground is covered. The only challenge is this is not the very best forage. So the more interesting grasses are missing. But that is something that we can only fix over time by bringing in something through the rumen, or by simply overseeding with the right stuff. And that is what we should be doing now. Now that we are getting some rain, you can get the seeds and actually throw some out before they come back. And of course there's the problem with the ants, but it depends when we do this, how we do this, and how we use the straw, because there we had done this with the straw but without the seed, because that was before we figured out how to seed into straw. For these pretty short grazing sessions, we keep the calves here in the area where the whole herd is mostly at, just to ease management, and that also allows them to nibble a little bit on grass, because that's eventually what they are going to eat. The swale is still not really filling up. The pump continues to lift up some water to here, but the rain has not made any significant difference. And the part at the beginning here, you can see that there's this bump, has now received some moisture from above, but the water level is still not high enough to actually overflow this. But with more rain and more pumping, maybe then it will happen. But of course it also depends how much infiltrates and ends up in the soil further down. That is the whole purpose of the swale, but it would be lovely to see the swale filled. It is pretty interesting to see how many seeds are in a straw. This is some of the cereal that just pops up. course, it's not very useful in our context, but it is some root. This is some additional biomass, because this plant body will later decompose in some form or be eaten by the cow and processed in the rumen, and then added to the soil in the form of manure. So this is all very welcome. And of course we are not trying to cultivate a cereal here. It's all about more living roots. And here again a view from the top, so that you can see how the soil cover here looks like and what it is. And you can see there is quite a bit of bare soil. There is this brownish moss-like short grass, and this is not really forage. There are brassicas coming up, but they are also not very helpful, at least from the perspective of a cow. And so there is still a lot of things that need to happen here in this area in order to make this a fertile pasture. But then you might remember, this is the area where we intend to seed with the help of some mules. The person who has the mules will soon show up and walk around and have a look, so it might actually happen. And here at this integrated pond in the big Swale in CT1, it's pretty much the same picture. So this is the water that we had, and it's raining a little bit. We had some heavier downpours earlier today, but this has not made any impact on the Swale itself. But it's a start. The good news is that now on that Swale, on that berm of the Swale, we have some green coming up. Those are the broad beans that we seeded a little while ago, and they are tucked away in the compost that the cows and pigs made for it based on straw. So this is now coming up all over the place, and I guess in a week or so it looks much more impressive. So stay tuned for an update on that. Good morning. We've had some rain overnight, and also yesterday it rained quite a bit. Light rain and some showers, and it continued through the night, and it's all wet, which is very good. We have some puddles here, and let's see how, for example, the seasonal creek in the middle of the land looks like. The long-term forecast talks about a lot more rain by the end of the upcoming week.
Come, biggie guy. Come. Vamos, por allí se pone. No, pues se ha llovido, ¿eh? Se ha llovido, sí. Ya que no la va a ver, pero había como lombriz en el agua. Una lombriz así infinita. ¿Sí? Siéntate. Siéntate. Sienta. 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 Sit. Siéntate. 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 Sit. Sit. Sienta. 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 Sit. 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 Sienta. Venga, come. Hay que enseñarlo, ¿por qué me ve? Allí. Aquí. ¿No lo veis? Ven. Aquí. ¿Coméis? No como otra cosa. Aquí tonto. Aquí, tonto, ya. ¿Va? Aquí tonto es más grande. Ya podemos contar. ¿Cuánto habéis contado? 44 cuando pase 7 últimos. Los grandes, sí, el niño no me ha contado. 32 las grandes he contado, los chicos no los he contado. Ah, tú no te caes en una chica. 42. Y si allí, esa vaca 43.
So this one here we are keeping alone. The rest of the herd went out to pasture in the other part of the farm because she is about to give birth. And if I zoom in, you can see that this process has started. So we better leave her alone.
Esto a mansalva. Semilla a tope. La raíz ahí, tío. Si no está enterrada, si está hecha en lo harto y lo harto, sácala, sácala.
Look what we have found here.
Bueno, pues sabemos que tenemos que dejar aquí la madre. A ver, levántate que te vea. Una hembra, no me lo puedo creer.
A female calf.
Con lo grande que estaba y lo gorda que estaba.
We had been wondering about a huge belly of the cow and were expecting a male calf.
La madre pasa de... Voy por ella. Ya, chica, vamos.
We want to see with our own eyes that the mother has accepted the calf and is not rejecting her. And at best, we want to see the calf drink milk. She is calling out to the calf, so that is very good.
Si lo quiere, a lo mejor hasta bebido leche y todo. Está enganchado, lo estoy viendo. Está todo bien.
Está empezando a salir ya la pata, la mano, ¿no?
While we were showing our visitor around, this one here had not made a lot of progress.
27, 25.
Está a puntito.
Sí.
So this time we are doing something new. The cows are in our paddock A5 at the moment. They entered there this morning. It is Saturday. And as we had the rain, and tomorrow is Sunday, I decided to give them 3 paddocks. There's not a lot of forage, and therefore they can pick and choose where they want to eat. And on Monday they will then go to a different place. We have to determine which one it's going to be. So the idea is that they find enough food together with the alfalfa pellets, and then when the sun comes back, and the moisture and together with the sun will then lead to hopefully a lot of growth. So I think it makes sense to allow them to graze it off, whatever is there at the moment, and then leave it alone for the next 30 days. So here we have paddock A1, and the one adjacent to it, which is A2, is also open, and we have just provided them some alfalfa pellets. So when they are done in A5, which is a little bit up there, they will wander out and see what else is open, and then hopefully they will find that A2 is open, and they will get their ration of alfalfa pellets. They know that they are there because they have seen it and they have moved. So they do have an idea. But of course it takes a little while to process that and conclude, because animals are not as good to conclude things like we humans are. I guess that's the difference between us. But anyway, so the point is, right now they have 3 paddocks, and they are not exactly 5,000 square meters in size, they are smaller, and so it averages out. And like I said, the purpose is to allow them to graze this off. There is some forage here, but of course lack of rain and low temperatures have not allowed this to go very well. So therefore take off the tip and then leave it alone. That is the idea. So this can be grazed, and this over there as well. So there is something. And then in the next 30 days this place has plants expressing themselves again, and we have received a little bit of fertilizer in the form of manure, and that should help this to get well into spring. Now this here is another good example. So this could be the whole paddock, but unfortunately it is still only patches. But by playing this game more and more, hopefully we will have this all over the place at some point. So like I said, there is some forage, and therefore they should come in here and add their contribution so that there will be more forage. That is the swale that we first dug, basically as soon as we got a backhoe, and it has some shrubs like the little strawberry tree here to the left, and it seems that they are coming back, but not much has happened here. It's got a little bit neglected because of other things to do, and it's after all the idea that all this is self-sustaining. You do see a drip irrigation line here. So early on we had some irrigation here, but then we stopped this, so this summer this never received any water. And as you can see, the part in the swale behind the berm is dry, so there's no standing water because the rain that we got wet everything, but it's not enough to really fill up swales. But it's no problem, at least we got some rain, and every bit that counts. And long-term forecast for the end of this week is that there will be more rain, so we will see. Maybe after all I can show you some swales that have been filled all the way to the brim. But not the case just yet. Most of the herd is currently here in A5, where they came in maybe 2 hours ago. And they're grazing off the little bit that is there at their manure, and then when they don't find anything, they will then go out and find A2. And I said most of the herd because there are 2 cows that are still in our area C. One is giving birth, so it's actually 3. So one, a limousine cow, is right now giving birth. I will go there later to see about the result. So she just went into labor. And then there is the 5517, the retinta looking one. She gave birth this morning. The calf is female and is drinking milk. And there's also a third one with a newborn. So they decided to stay there, which is okay. They got some alfalfa pellets and they will rejoin the herd later. And then there are 2 calves, 2 female calves, pretty young ones, who did not want to walk all the way down here. They are a little bit further up, but I assume at some point they will look for their mamas or their mamas look for them. So we keep an eye on this, but they are free to roam as much as they can. And of course, if you look at this fence here, the little ones can easily jump it or go under it, and that's perfectly fine because they're little ones, and when they see some grass that they want to try on the other side, then that's fine, they should go there. It is important to control the movement of the adults, because the adults can do some good and do some damage, and therefore we want to control their movement. Eventually this will all be pig safe fencing, so that means a physical fence in combination with some electric wire, but that is when we get back to having pigs. And now that we know how we want to play this, we will take our time to create the right infrastructure. So that means a lot more investment in fencing. So I give you a data point: 100 meters of pig safe fence, 1.30 meter high, cost the material, the roll of the wire mesh, 165 euros. So that is going to be a lot of it. And we do this step by step. We begin with the animal lanes, so that the animals cannot venture out of the lane. And then step by step we create paddocks where we can then bring in the pigs to uproot and later seed. And this way we don't need to buy a tractor and do some tilling and all the other things that people have been doing for a lot of time instead of using the pigs. So no tractor here, we are going to use the pigs for all these things. So step by step, but that is the plan, and that is why I say right now it's not a problem that the little ones roam the place as they like. Once they are a little bit older, so probably by 9-10 months, they are big enough, and then these strands of polywire will work to keep them where we want them to be. And in a little while, when we have the other fencing, then of course that's no problem anymore, then nobody will venture out. But that might be over the next 2 or even 3 years, but doesn't matter. We need to go slow and at the pace of nature. So here's a perfectly good example. I will tell you the exact age of this animal, but as you can see, now she is tall enough so that these 2 polywires create a barrier. So they are from last year, and I believe she's now therefore a year old.
The limousine cow 9725 has not made much progress. Instead, she is like that. I will tell you in the next video what happened And what happened?